Even before the rise of Zoran Mamdani,
Right.
we saw politicians needing Bangladeshi voters, and as you mentioned earlier in the conversation, Indo-Caribbean voters. People have recall on the issues that Zoran Mamdani ran on. Free buses, childcare for all. Affordability.
And he knows what the city needs, and I think he can deliver on his promises.
Bangladeshis are a strong voting bloc or power, especially in Queens, in New York City elections. What do they do with this now? Where can they go? Especially the Bangladeshi community, they make the city run. They are in Dunkin' Donuts. They are Uber driver. They are the restaurant owners. They are the food vending. The Bangladeshi community running the city in a way. The Muslim community is Bangladeshi, a huge number here, but you have the Pakistanis, you have the Indians, and South Asian in general.
Yeah. So I have been writing about the South Asian community pretty much my whole career, about 30 years. You mentioned I'd written books. My father came to Jackson Heights in 1971, and that's, a very common trajectory for Indian immigrants to New York City, starting in Jackson Heights, then moved to Long Island. That might sound familiar, Habib, but
of course.
Moving to New York City, moving to the suburbs. They're now in New Jersey. And it's a common kind of Indian trajectory, as well as a common trajectory for Bangladeshis. Pakistanis, we've seen, similar. What I have to hand it off to the Bangladeshis of New York City is that they have made themselves into a political force that I think the Indians and Pakistanis that came before them were never able to do. And so the last few years, even before the rise of Zoran Mamdani, we saw politicians needing Bangladeshi voters, and as you mentioned earlier in the conversation, Indo-Caribbean voters, as a pretty ascendant population. In some cases, new citizens, but also the numbers kind of made them a critical voting bloc in New York in a way that the Indian and Pakistani populations really never got to that critical mass. And so I think you and I were just talking, if I'm not mistaken, there's hundreds of thousands of Bangladeshis in New York City. I mean, by some estimates, 300K to 400K, right?
I would say so. Yeah.
So what I think we saw was this constituency really assert their power. I think we've seen this power over the last few years, not just for Muslim candidates, but the fact that they could energize around a Muslim candidate. And then I think in Zoran Mamdani, you have, kind of a quintessential intersectional candidate, right? What do I mean by that? He was born in Uganda. His mother is Hindu, his father is Muslim. He identifies as a practicing Muslim. But as a result of his identity, he went not just to mosques and, I have friends in the Sunni community who claim him. I have friends in the Shia community who claim him. And so this idea of claiming him as their own in gurudwaras and, Sikh houses of worship.
And Hindu temples too.
Yeah. So if you think about kind of how we associate politicians, doing what they do, it's historically been in churches on Sunday. So I think while we saw, certainly white and mainstream politicians and other politicians go to, other houses of worship, I think in Mamdani, we saw somebody who is of these communities, right? That translated into the video that you just saw was people who not just identify with it, but then feel mobilized to do something about it. And that is, I was just telling you, I met someone this morning, a Pakistani American. He's probably my age, late 40s, early 50s, has never voted in his whole life. His whole life. He said, I had no reason to vote in Pakistan. Politicians there are corrupt. Again, this is something all of us will identify with from, our kind of our home countries. I didn't feel the need to vote in New York elections, general elections before. This was the first time I voted. So that's the narrative of when we say redrawing the political map, that type of sentiment is fueling it. And I think Bangladeshis have been, kind of at the center of this.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And this is also the way you said, he is loved by all these people. He's not necessarily a Muslim, not necessarily a Hindu, not necessarily Shia, not necessarily Sunni, but all of them claiming him. That's not easy to do.
Right.
That's a very difficult thing. And anybody who can do it, success is guaranteed.
Yeah. What do you think of his Bengali? Do you think he spoke well?
No. No.
Because he did. I mean, I'm ready.
No.
Like for him, you don't think so? It was he tried.
It's like your Bengali.
Oh
right?
gosh.
Look,
Abi ekটু বাংলা বলতে পারি,
right. So
right?
it's a little bit better than them.
Okay.
You know I'm fluent in multiple languages,
Yeah,
right? It's
yeah.
like Hindi and Urdu and Arabic.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that he speaks Hindi. I had no idea, right?
Yeah.
He came here when he was 7, so you really can't tell if he does. But when I heard him, it's like, oh my God, I missed it. I could have just had a conversation with him in Hindi.
Yeah.
But next time. But that all this point you just made, you saw that girl, the college-going girl. She said, "I usually don't vote, and I feel like to vote today."
Yeah.
Right? And the Pakistani man that you saw on an elevator, right? He said, "I never vote. I'm 48 plus years old, but I felt like to vote." Something is compelling them to vote. Is it the system? Is it the Donald Trump? Is it the marginalized people are under huge pressure? What do you think it is?
I think it is dissatisfaction with our status quo. I think that has a lot to do with it. But I also think it would be a mistake for us to think about the Democratic sweep that you just mentioned and say, oh, these people are motivated by the Democratic Party. I think we need to get real about what people are voting for. And the fact that in the sweep, we had 2 female candidates and 1 South Asian Muslim candidate in New York City also kind of makes the case for the identity politics that, everyone who says, oh, diversity's over and identity politics, we're so sick of it. Well, guess what? People identify with people who they identify with, right?
Yeah,
If they see themselves, they might actually do something about it. So I think there is the appeal. And then the other thing I'll just mention, beyond identity, people have recall on the issues that Zoran Mamdani ran on. Free buses, childcare for all, affordability, freeze the rent. Yeah. Those are very tangible platforms.
Donald Trump won the election based on those. You know that, right?
I don't think there's dissimilar campaigning going on.
No. I'm not saying this.
By the way, I think the economics that they're appealing to are also
different.
very well. Yeah, I mean,
are different. Very different. You are appealing to the ultra rich. Right?
Although he has poor voters too. I was going to say
he fooled the poor voters. I mean, Garry, would you disagree with me or? And it's not a
who's
joke.
Right, Garry? Who's right?
Both of you are right.
I knew it. I mean, nobody can deny this. But Garry, I'm coming back to you because we're gonna run off to a different topic altogether. Many say that Mamdani's inexperience of governing will be a big issue. That's one question. What do you think of it or make out of it? And just opposite of it, he's anti-establishment. And the younger voters who voted him liked it, right? And that's one of the reasons they voted him. So there's a paradigm going on, right? What do you make out of the first question and the second, conflicting standing?
Well, I think, first of all, you run a campaign on sets of ideas.
Right.
And you govern a set of realities. And I think what we have to look beyond sort of like this lack of experience narrative is that who has he chosen to be in his administration?
Correct.
That's very important. And I think from what I've seen, from what I know, he will get highly competent people who want to help him move forward. In many ways, listening to you and Mitra talking about the rise of the South Asian, in particular the Bangladeshi, this is, to me, a small moment for you where African-American was in 2008 with Obama.
Correct.
So there's a lot. I'm seeing this, and this is why people are motivated, because this is making history. This is something that you never thought you've seen.
Right.
The biggest and most important city in America, if not the world, you have one of us who is the mayor. That's heady stuff. So that's really a moment that you will always remember in your life for that community. And so, yeah, I do understand it. Yes.
Yeah. So inexperience it can be overcome. What you're saying, it depends on how you're surrounding yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And he is intellectually solid.
Yeah.
And he knows what the city needs. And I think he can deliver on his promises.
Yeah. Listen, we know the old guards. We saw Eric Adams. We have Cuomo as a governor. And we know what happened. So the excuse that people make out of saying inexperience, it's a weakness. Therefore, you're bound to fail, right? So that's in itself, I think it's not a valid argument.
Well, it's also why he won. Meaning,
exactly.
Because the reason people were motivated is because he is 34 years old.
Right.
And everyone who says, oh, he's never run a team more than 5 people,
And so what?
I think that's why there's an appeal, right? People want someone outside. And he's not outside the system. He has been in the New York Assembly.
Not as insider establishment as we know.
Right.
But
his inexperience is a part of his appeal.
Correct.
That, and I would say, we haven't really talked about kind of him on social media, but he comes off as pretty vulnerable. He talked about how personally he's connecting, but I think...
what's funny about this?
Yeah.
The social media presence. Gary, catch us if we are wrong. I think a lot of his social media, his mother is a director, that, right?
Oh, yeah.
I was really, when I was writing for today's script, right, I was actually paying attention. Why does his social media presence look so good? But it has something that I couldn't catch in the beginning. I was able to decipher it last night.
And what is it?
Most of his bright colors are coming from his mother's filmmaking ideas. If you look at Mississippi Masala, right?
Yeah.
Those movies coloring scheme in his ads. If you look how
That's interesting.
Look at how they wrote Zoran with a yellow, but kind of like a deeming yellow, right?
We have the same colors at Epicenter, so I have been like, oh gosh,
so I think his mother's experience. I think his mother was directing those clips. I think I'm not 100% sure.
I think there is something about I think he has a focus on visuals,
right,
in a way that many candidates don't have.
Correct.
That. Yeah,
right. I'm going to stay with you now that you just talked about the voting power of Bangladeshi Americans or Bangladeshi Muslim Americans, right? Now that you know that Bangladeshis are a strong voting bloc or power, especially in Queens, in New York City elections, what do they do with this now? Where can they go? Especially the Bangladeshi community. They make the city run. They are in Dunkin' Donuts. They are Uber driver. They are the restaurant owners. They are the food vending. The Bangladeshi community running the city in a way. What do they do now? What's their next step?
I hope that there are Bangladeshis on the transition team, right? I imagine there will be, because the South Asian organizations, including, 𝗔𝗯ance, Shahana Hanif, of course, the Bangladeshi city councilwoman in Brooklyn, have been pretty key to this campaign. So my suspicion is that there will be Bangladeshis involved in the transition team and ultimately in his administration. I feel like that's kind of the least you could expect, right? As a result of turning out for eventually Mayor Mamdani. I think the other part is that, and you and I have talked about this, the number of Bangladeshis who run for city office is actually quite high.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's people running against each other, and so they cancel the vote out. And so I guess
we saw that happening last time in the city council election. Remember?
Absolutely. And so, you and I have talked about this.
When was it? 2021 or 2022?
It was 21.
Yeah.
And so I guess I wonder politically who is organizing, and I hate to say who is organizing you all as though your community is a monolith. But some aspect of is there some organization to be done?
They're independently deciding to run.
Right.
So what would be your advice if you want to show your power and as a voting bloc, bloc?
Yeah. I think we're seeing it. I feel like I don't want to kind of dictate to this community what should be done, but I marvel at the political organization. I think entering both South Asian and Asian organizations at all levels feels really important. I also think we have a number of Asian organizations that say they're Asian, but with the force that Bangladeshis have just shown in New York City, the major Asian organizations should also make sure that they are representing your community, right?
Yeah.
They get funding, they get resources. There's a lot of access to power that they represent.
Yeah. So what you're saying is there is a real power in Bangladeshi voting bloc. They just yet haven't figured out how to harness that power. Is that correct?
I feel like
there are other communities who can learn from these voting blocs.
I think that's right. I mean, I was actually going to say with what I've noticed what I was going to ask about the Haitian community, and I've noticed this, and I've said this to Garry, the Haitians show up everywhere. They're presidents of universities, they're CEOs of companies, and you don't know they're Haitian necessarily, and then you start talking.
They don't identify them as.
So I don't know if there's something to learn from those communities, and also in Brooklyn, I think you're, Garry, what is he, the party leader in Brooklyn? I don't even know, but
the Brooklyn Democratic Party leader.
Yeah. How did you all penetrate these upper echelons of politics? And you're a smaller community, I think.
Yes, we're much smaller, but we've been here for in large numbers for 40 years now. And so over the years, a lot of alliances were made with Jewish community largely in central Brooklyn. And so if you look at the support that Councilwoman Farah Lewis has gotten in Midwood and other parts of her district, and it's out of an alliance with the Jewish community.
নিউ ইয়র্ক থেকে সম্প্রচারিত TBN24 টেলিভিশন বিশ্বজুড়ে বাঙালির কণ্ঠস্বর।